Dear Harstem, I thought with the Void Race being nerfed, CVP would be a lot more fun. But apparently you can just rush carriers now. The Protoss I played in this replay rushed carriers, and I realized that with Queen Walks being nerfed, you can play without a forge. And he played so greedy that he was able to take a fort base with literally 4 units at 545. My early game, however, was very good. I only lost 1 drone, his Oracle accomplished nothing, and I hit a decent-ish timing, which could have been better. But honestly, if Protoss is able to rush carriers like this, I might just not play anymore. Name: Demi. Race: Zerg. League Grandmaster. This is a replay from the Korean server against Korean Protoss pro gamer Prince. Prince is currently a 6.4k MMR player on Korea, and Demi is 5.6k. So a solid, well, what is it? 800-ish MMR below his opponent. But yet complaining about Void Race. Well, not Void Race, but carriers, actually. The Void Ray nerf did its job, and Void Rays, are not as good anymore. But the carriers are the real problem, because the lack of Queen Walks means that you can just rush straight into carriers. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this, obviously. I think it's an interesting thought. And the first thing I want to talk about is the Corruptor. The Corruptor is the counter to the carrier, and Corruptor timings were always the counter to very quick carriers. Whenever a Protoss survived the early game, whether that was with some disruptors and then straight up switched into carriers without Void Rays, they would often struggle with Corruptor timings because they don't have any Void Rays to defend the carriers. So rushing out carriers by themselves does absolutely nothing because you tend to just die. You still need the Void Rays with when you're rushing out carriers. And because the Void Ray time got nerfed and the amount that you need to pay to build Void Rays went up, that should be more difficult. So the initial premise that carrier rushing is now more viable, in my opinion, is incorrect. Now, my opinion has been wrong in the past and it could be wrong again. But I don't think it is wrong in this case. We're just going to have a look to see where it went wrong for Demi, if there is anything he could have done better, or if Prince maybe has found the Holy Grail. Does he know how to rush into carriers without building any Void Rays whatsoever? Or does he have some other special tricks that make it impossible to kill him? I'm actually kind of curious, because Demi said that he hit a decent-ish timing as well, and he had a good early game. And often these are the 2 requirements, hitting a decent timing after having a good early game to kill a carrier rushing player. So if Prince manages to survive, I'm very curious to see what he has, because personally, I almost never survive when I rush into carriers before the patch and after the patch. Well, especially after the patch, it's practically impossible. We saw Prince open up with a block here on the natural, very common at the high level. Is he walking in a heart? Nah, not quite a heart. You're missing the indent here of the heart, but it's pretty close. Demi going for the inject, double inject. I like it. Hatchery goes down at a standard timing as well. I mean, these guys are pro players. It's going to be really weird if I can see something that is wrong in the build order. It's of course important to see what both players are doing, but they know what to do. They have the speed to do what they have to do as well. Actually, pretty low APM for a Zerg player, but it's okay. Void Ray first here for Prince. So this is not a straight up rush into carriers. I honestly kind of suspected or expected like a 4-gas build, double Stargate, quick carrier rush, that type of play that we've seen in the past, but this actually still opens up with a Void Ray here. So most likely just going to be Void Ray into Oracle. A pylon in the wall indicates that he wants to get a very fast 3rd base and skip the 2nd gateway for a little bit. I do like this type of play. Especially now that the Void Ray is a bit more expensive. This makes the initial build order very similar to what it was pre-patch. You just have 1 less gateway and your wall is a little bit wonky as well. Demi sees that there's a Void Ray out and immediately pulls back all of his Overlords. Great play, and is of course the correct play as well. You don't want any of these Overlords getting caught. This one Overlord is still trying to look for any Oracles. I guess Demi believes that he can pull it back in time if the Void Ray ends up showing up there. I guess the spores, are they a little early? No, it's actually fine, 2 spores. Once again, I can kind of live with this. Sometimes you see people stay on a single spore for a long time. That boosts the Zerg eco a little bit because one drone mines for a bit longer. Okay, here's a very fast fleet beacon indeed out of the Protoss. And a second Stargate. Now, first of all, there's also some initial problems with this, of course. And the first problem that you can kind of see with that is that this would be pretty difficult to defend any type of Nidus attack. Now, these attacks would be perhaps some type of blind counter-like attack. Like there's, without a Forge, without a Robo, without Disruptors, it's going to be impossible to hold your third base if there's a Queen Ling Nidus, like how Dark has been playing recently. I think he did it against Classic in the GSL. If Demi would do something like this build would die. So this is not, first of all, a safe build order. There are loads of build orders that are very good if you get away with it, but it's not necessarily safe. Sure, the Queen Walk is not viable anymore against this, but there are other builds that can just straight up kill this. And sometimes that is just kind of part of the game, you know? You can play greedy and then die against blind counters. That is just how it works. But there's also other things that usually can happen against carrier rushes, and we'll see what Demi decides to do. So far, his early game is quite good, except for his scouting. Okay, 5 minutes and 10 seconds into the game, and he wasn't even aware whether there was a third base or not. That is just a little bit odd. If all you've seen is a single Void Ray and an Oracle, literally anything can be a follow-up. There could be Glaives coming, it could be double Stargate, it could be a charge lot all in, like we've seen Zest do a lot on maps like Blackburn, but also on maps like Oxide before. There's just a lot of builds that can come from it, and it's important to at least confirm that the third base is there. And up until 5:09, so he literally had, 71 seconds to scout this base, and he didn't do it. By the time he arrived, his battery is almost done. The base has already finished the worker as well. The gases are already starting. Like, this is an extremely late scout. Now, it's not going to hurt him because the correct response against the third base is building drones and queens. And so far, what Demi has been doing is building drones and queens, which is absolutely correct. So, although he's made a mistake of not scouting, it has had no consequences whatsoever. Prince has made no major errors. He is consistently scouting. I don't really see any minor mistakes either. I guess he took a little bit too much damage on this Oracle, which kind of sucks. He lets the creep spread get a bit far. There's no attempt of denial whatsoever. Another point where I'd like to say something is that usually at high level, Zergs have links spread across the map for 2 reasons. One, to spot any type of move out, whether that's with glaive adapts, or to see wherever the Oracle or the Void Rays, or in this case the carriers, are going to be hitting, if they do end up going across the map. Also for prisms. So you'd have like a link patrolling here, a link patrolling here, maybe a link patrolling this area. You just kind of create like a ring of vision around the Protoss base. And because links are so cheap, it is kind of easy to do. It's kind of easy to set up. And because this Protoss is skipping basically every single unit, he would not have the units to get any type of map control. This is good movement. Demi's early game has actually been fantastic. I just like to stress that here, is that he has... Did he miss that? Oh, that is super unfortunate. Did he actually miss that? That was so close. No? Oh, no. Oh, he saw it. Well... He saw it, but he didn't really see it. However, he's still going to go in towards the main base, sees the fleet beacon, sees extra Void Rays. But because he knows that there's no extra Void Rays except this one, with some deductive reasoning, he should be able to figure out that the carriers are coming towards his base. And if carriers are coming, there's a pretty easy response. What you need to do is you pull all queens to the same position, you move this spore to the front, you move this spore to the front over here, and you probably build a spore at your forward base as well. The queens from your main base also need to leave the main base and move forward. Because if you have all queens together and there's a single spore helping you defend, 2 carriers are going to do absolutely nothing, especially if those carriers don't even have any upgrades yet. Now, I like that he's still going for the Ling movement, but right now there are bigger fish to fry. And the bigger fish to fry really these two carriers, right? So right now he spots the carriers, immediately moves the spore. Fantastic quick response here. Queens from the main need to come over as well. There is a Spire on the way already, and it's about to finish up. So he can just produce a bunch of Corruptors if he wants to. Often, though, if you want to play... Ooh, this is actually kind of cool. Oh, well... If these queens were here earlier, I don't think that queen would have necessarily died. That sucks. Yeah. Okay, he's gonna go Corruptors. Often, if they play Corruptor timings, you first want to get the Roaches before you get the Corruptor. So that's why he was a little bit hesitant there. He was like, hey, can I hold this without having to build Corruptors? I think that was his thought process, why he, you know, he hesitated for a second. Now, we could say that he's slow, but I actually think there was a decision being made there. And I don't want to criticize anyone for thinking. I think that generally is a good quality if you're considering something and seeing how a fight goes before making a big decision. I think that's a very good call. I honestly believe that Demi has been playing a fantastic game. And although he's had some minor errors with the late scout, which was eventually inconsequential, and losing the 2 queens for free, he has good creep spread. He has fantastic eco. +1 is about to finish up. He has Ravagers on the way. I think his position is really good. And this is exactly what I was talking about, by the way. Carrier rushes are only good if you build Void Rays with them. And what are we seeing out of Prince here? He's building Void Rays. So this carrier rush achieved nothing except kill 2 queens. These Void Rays, however, if you compare pre-patch to post-patch, are way more expensive, or quite a bit more expensive. The Void Rays take longer to pop out as well, so there's going to be less Void Rays for the defense. This situation, pre-patch, would have been way better for the Protoss player. Way, way better. If the Protoss would have taken a fort base at 545 pre-patch, probably would have had 2 extra Void Rays at this point already, and would have been capable of affording more cannons over here as well. So far, the claim that anything is worst post-patch for Zerg when it comes to rushing out carrier, I think is pretty much false. Let's have a look at this push though. I love these overlords. This is so cool. He's saying, hey, my queens, so for the people who don't know, by the way, queens can't transfuse off creep anymore. That is the major nerf to Zerg. And it makes them very difficult to control. It's actually true. I know people like to joke about it, but it makes these types of pushes a lot harder. You need to poop overlords, it's a hassle. Then whenever they move off creep, they still can't do anything, so you need to start spreading creep. It's extremely annoying, especially because one of the main moves with these types of pushes is that you need to send the queens in first to tank for the damage. And if you always have to wait for creep, that is not very viable. Sending in the Ravagers first usually isn't quite what you want. So these Ravagers are going in, and Prince is moving over to defend. I honestly kind of like this position here for Demi. So you force out the prismatic alignment, you move back, you constantly use the Ravager Bile. Okay, he takes out the fort base, continues producing Corruptors. He was a little late with that. He built 7 at the same time rather than continuously adding on. Right now what you want to be doing is you add an Infestation Pit, probably start +2 range here as well. And you're honestly in a very good spot. You can also continue moving forward, by the way. I'm not saying he should go back, but there's plenty of money to do everything at once. +1 is starting right now for air. Prismatic alignment has already been used. This is a mistake here. This is actually a mistake. So the queens are the main tanking unit of this force. And it's really important that they're at the front, because they tank not only the Void Ray damage and the carrier damage, but they also tank a disruptor shot. If you see a bunch of queens moving forward, you just want to fire a disruptor at them, because as long as these queens are attacking first, your Void Rays and carriers can't be fighting that well against them, because their damage, like the damage of the Void Ray, isn't great against the queens. So ideally, you want to have the Void Rays either attacking Corruptors, or if Ravagers are isolated, you take those out. The Ravagers are not zoning any of these Void Rays at this point with Biles, which is something you want to consistently be doing. Now, if we just take a quick look at this fight again, even if the queens are not here, the way that we'd want to be fighting this is we throw a Bile wherever the air army is every 3 seconds. This forces the Protoss to either split his Void Rays and lose a little bit of damage output, or to just fly back and lose a lot of damage output and further the position of the Zerg, making it harder for the Protoss to reinforce from the natural. This type of stuff is kind of important. Now, Corruptors continue moving in, gets one of the carriers. Like I said, I think he tanks a massive Disruptor shot here, which isn't exactly brilliant. Oof, that's 4 Ravagers. It's not the greatest split. Actually, it was not a split whatsoever. There's still a lot of money in the bank, though, so he can just kind of reinforce this position with more Corruptors. Yeah, I just wish he had an Infestation Pit started already. I am not entirely sure why Demi left here. If I just look at this position right now. 4 base, 8 gas. There's a lot of minerals. There's a lot of gas in the bank. There's still 22 Corruptors. There's actually so many Corruptors that I believe that when the Prismatic alignment ends, that the Corruptors will win the air fight. There's only 6 Interceptors and +1. 22 Corruptors against 7 Void Rays without Prismatic alignment and 2 carriers with 6 Interceptors total. Especially if there's a couple Queens still around that can tank and transfuse. If you split them and don't get splashed by the Archons, I think you actually just win the game. Add on top of that you have a crap ton of money in the bank. You could be taking a 5th base. You can get like 10 more Corruptors with this as well. Your opponent is mining out from the main base. He's soon to start mining out the natural. He hasn't even started a 4th base yet. And he's only on double Stargate air production. And his ground is, well, has a single upgrade, but he only has 7 gateways. Like, I think this game is over, but it's not over for the person you believe it to be over for. Like, you've won. You actually won the game at this point. You're 800 MMR below someone. He does a build order that is extremely greedy and dies to a lot of things in the early game. You do a timing push, you kill him, and then you complain. What outcome would you want? Like, what is it with Zerg players? Do they just want everything handed to them? Maybe like after 6 minutes of surviving against Protoss that we start building a wonder in the back of your base, and if the wonder stays up for 5 more minutes that you just get the MMR of your opponent. I just don't understand what more you want. This is a completely won scenario. Yes, you played well in the early game. You made some minor mistakes. Then you did a timing, which is supposed to kill your opponent, and you killed your opponent. Like, I just don't even understand really what you're complaining about. You won the game. You just left it. What was it? You said he rushed carriers, and he played so greedy he was able to take a fast 4th base. Yes, he was capable of doing that. And you also took a very fast 4th base and had way better eco than him. Like, if the TOS plays greedy, Zerg can just play greedier and then do a timing and kill the Protoss. If Protoss is able to rush carriers like this, I might just not play anymore. I mean, Protoss is able to rush carriers like this and you're able to kill them. You've shown that you're capable of killing Protoss when they rush carriers like this. I don't even understand what you're complaining about. This is like saying, well, if Terrans can open up 5 CC before barracks, I don't even want to play this game anymore. So like, Terran can open 5 CC before barracks and nothing is stopping you from sending 12 links across the map and winning the game. It's the same with this Protoss. This Protoss rushed carriers, took a 4th base 6 minutes in, and you won the game. Like, what is the problem? Except that you have absolutely no clue what's going on here. Like, I don't even understand it. You go on a date, it goes fantastic, you have a brilliant time, and the person you go on the date with at the end says, hey, you'll call me tomorrow, right? Then you go home, block her on Facebook, delete it from your phone, and never talk with her again. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's basically what you just did, but then in StarCraft. I'm just stunned. Like, I know that most people, they kind of rage send a replay, but this is so obviously wrong. Like, what is it that you saw here that even made you want to leave? Like, I genuinely don't understand. Oh, he only had 1 carrier even. It wasn't even 2. He had 1 carrier. I thought it was 2 carriers, but he literally just has a single carrier. Like, this is the thing that you see before you leave. How many corruptors is this? It's like, what, 12? Then we add 8, 9, 12 plus 9. 21. I think you have 21 corruptors here. And there's 1 more flying over. Yeah, so these are all 22 corruptors are here. And you literally see 6 void rays and 1 carrier. You even have creep here, so you can transfuse. I honestly just don't understand this. I don't even think you suck either. But I also don't think it's imbalanced. I just don't know what to do with this. You won the game. You played well. You played a good game. You macroed well. Your control wasn't brilliant, but you played well. And you won. It's a draw. You didn't suck. And it is not imbalanced. All right. Draw. The first one. Well, congratulations, Demi, I guess. I hope everyone else enjoyed this and probably is just as confused as I am. And if you are, that's okay. And we can get through it together. And the best way to get through it together is to hit the like button on this video. Share it with your friends that used to play StarCraft in 2010, but now play Fortnite with their 3-year-old son. Tell them, hey, this is way more fun. Come back to us. All right. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see all of you next time for a new video. Bye-bye.